You're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day, or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. I'm your host, Graeme Forsyth. Today's edition of Coffee with Graeme is brought to you by AETi, Caisse Financial Group, Evolve Green, Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, and TOVI Hockey. From wherever you are tuning in on this Tuesday morning, whether that be Manitoba, Saskatchewan, or maybe somewhere else, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your Tuesday and checking out this edition of Coffee with Graeme. We got two people joining the show today, two guests on today's edition of the show. And starting off today's episode as the first guest, it's going to be head coach of the Notre Dame Hounds U18 female hockey team in the Saskatchewan female U18 AAA Hockey League, Craig Perrett. He's going to be joining me first up on the show here on this Tuesday morning on this April 12th edition of Coffee with Graeme to talk about his team's road to the championship, how they were able to come away with the championship win against the Regina Rebels, as well as talking about their look ahead to their regional series coming up to see who makes it to the SO Cup between them and the Westman Wildcats, as that little series will be played in Hartney coming up this month. But without further ado, let's play the intro of Coffee with Graeme and bring on Craig Perrett, head coach of the Notre Dame Hounds U18 female team in the Saskatchewan female U18 AAA Hockey League, on this first interview in today's edition of Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. There he is, Craig Perrett, head coach of the Notre Dame Hounds U18 female team in the Saskatchewan female U18 AAA Hockey League. Craig, got to start off by saying congratulations. The team clinching the championship this past Sunday. I mean, after all the hard work, the dedication that was put in for this team throughout this year, seeing them make it to the top of that mountain, as the old cliche goes, must have been just so rewarding to see all that hard work pay off in the end.
Yeah, well, thanks, Graeme. You're right. It was a pretty satisfying moment for our group. We've been talking about playing championship caliber hockey since the start of the season. We believe that talking about it was something we're allowed to do. A lot of places might not, but for our group, it's something that we wanted to instill way back in September. And to see it come to fruition there on Sunday night was a pretty good feeling. We had some really good fan support for our alumni and our students that were still around. We're actually on spring break right now, so a lot of them went home. It was pretty neat to see that come in and the fan support that we had there and how hard the girls played. So I was expecting the series to go 5. That's what we talked about from day one. We're pretty closely matched teams. Obviously, the scores kind of related that, but it was a good step for us. Yeah, we enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, looking at the final series, I mean, it wasn't a cakewalk whatsoever. I mean, all the games were only decided by one goal, but to see this team come out, elevate their game in those biggest moments, no matter how close the score was, just got to say, points to how special this group of girls truly was being able to do that.
Yeah, we're comfortable in those one-goal games. We played in a lot of them this year. We've got a really strong leadership group. We got a couple of girls that have been in our program now for 4 years, started grade 9 with the Hounds and could be graduating as 4-year Hounds. We got another group that are a bunch of 3-year Hounds graduating this year as well, too. So, we knew that inside that room, there's a lot of experience from a hockey standpoint. The odd piece was that I think most of our teams are the same, as we only had 2 girls that actually played playoff hockey before the pandemic hit the last 2 years, closing down our league. So it was still a learning experience for us, still more experience to be gained. I mean, there's nobody on my staff who's participated in the Western Challenge at this point, or Western Championship. So it'll be new firsts for all of us.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that Western Championship coming up in just a bit here in this interview. But just to see players on this team stepping up. I mean, Kira Anderson had a phenomenal playoffs. Team captain Ryan Perrett stepped up in huge moments as well, with two key goals in Game 2 and Game 3 of the finals against Regina. Seeing rookies step up as well, like Kiana McKibben, Sophie Kuzminski, just looking at the rookies who made their contributions. To see this team step up the way they did, not just getting contributions from the established veteran players, but from the rookies as well. Just take me through what that was like watching that unfold.
Well, it's a special feeling as a coach when you get to actually see your kids, perform at their highest levels. It was, we talked a lot about roles and accepting whatever role that you had that game or however your play was. Everybody from our leading players to our backup goalie every night to our athletic therapists, we've all accepted what our roles are going to be on this little special run we're on. I mean, our athletic therapists continue to put our kids back together because playoffs, there's bumps and bruises every day. So as they had a big role to play for us as well too, being able to recover as quickly as we did. But it's just one of those things that at the end of the day, we're sitting back watching and having a conversation as a staff after the game. We never really thought, what if we lost and had to prepare for Game 5? We just kind of played it out and were calm on the bench and really had the trust and belief that we were going to pull that one out.
Eva Filipova was amazing in these playoffs. A .940 save percentage, a .132 goals against average, a 6-1 record, and 2 shutouts. To see her perform, a goaltender that had a very solid season, to see her success continue into the playoffs. Just talk about what she was able to do in those biggest moments, in those pressured situations to stay, in that headspace, staying on the top of her game.
Well, it's always, you're always comfortable as a coach knowing your goalie's back there that can close up any mistakes. And Yeva was the top of her game for sure on Sunday. I mean, our first period, I think she turned away 2 breakaways in the first period that we gave up. And that just gave our team confidence. Going into that overtime, I just knew that she was going to be right there for us. I mean, I don't think she faced a whole lot of shots in the overtime, but the one she did face, she made the right saves and put the pucks in the right spot. And, watching her continue the year she's had, I wasn't surprised to see her step up and play the way she has, that's for sure.
Let's move back to that semifinals matchup against the Saskatoon Stars. Of course, this Hounds team had a bye coming in. Speak about that, how you felt that this bye might have helped serve this team the right way, obviously becoming champions. But, sometimes the bye could be a curse, for some teams. But for this team, it wasn't the case. Talk about how you guys truly used that bye week to the best of your abilities to come out strong in that series against Saskatoon, to put them in a 2-0 hole.
Well, I think to start it off, we needed the rest. We had a rough schedule with the COVID games and some of the canceled, suspended games we had from weather and COVID issues this year. We ended up playing 5 games in 8 days down the stretch. So the rest came at the right time for us. We had, again, bumps and bruises coming out of the season. We had 12 games in February trying to make up and make sure we got our season done. So the rest was good for us from a standpoint of healthy and getting our minds in the right place to play playoff hockey. Coming into the first couple of games, we were behind Saskatoon. Obviously, they had a series already in ahead of us in terms of competitiveness. But we ended up, getting up to that 2-0 lead, which gave us a little bit of space and also reinforced what we did leading into it. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot about systems and about, further skill development. It was just about reinforcing the foundation of our team and what makes us successful. And we had lots of times to do some video and have good conversations with groups and lines and as a team just about what our goals are and what we need to do to be successful in the playoffs. So we try to max our prep time while not overloading the kids in the same sense.
Right. And, just looking ahead in this series after that second game, this team ended up losing their first game of the playoffs 4-3 in OT. You guys ended up dominating the shots 40-21. Just couldn't come away with that win at that time. But just going into that fourth game, a 4-2 win, just speak about how the girls were able to respond to close out the series after losing a tough one, 4-3 in OT in Game 3 to Saskatoon.
Yeah, no, I think the loss helped us overall. I mean, at that point, we've never played a team that had their backs against the wall in an elimination game, and the nerves showed up pretty early on in that game. The good thing for us is we got a little bit of experience in it, so we ended up understanding a bit better how teams are going to show up when their backs are against the wall, and there literally is no tomorrow for that team. So we learned a lesson from that one, and then was a lot more comfortable going into the game 4 and be able to play with that, nervous energy that you're sitting in the dressing room with before the game, coming out a little bit better than we were in game 3, and able to carry that experience into the finals round as well too.
Well, a huge storyline in that game 4 win in that semifinal series was the team killing off 7 penalties. Obviously, don't want to get into penalty trouble like that, but when you're able to kill off all penalties, makes you feel a bit better as a coach looking at that. Just speak about how this penalty kill was able to elevate their game to kill off the penalties that they did, all 7 in that game 4 victory.
Yeah, Saskatoon has a really strong power play, and they made a couple of adjustments as the series went on. So we had to obviously make some adjustments on our backside. The one thing we do with our power play is we're not afraid to close out lanes and block shots. And having Yeva or Bailey in net, we know those goalies are going to make the stops 9 times out of 10, the ones that get through. Our power play is able to adjust and keep them to the outside. Our penalty kill kept their power play to the outside and put shots from bad areas and didn't give them any second opportunities to put the rebounds in. We were able to clear some pucks. So a couple adjustments on our end to work to our favor and moved us into that last round.
Like you said, you were expecting it to be a battle in that last series. You guys were expecting it to go 5 games. It ended up going 4, but lining up, facing off against the Regina Rebels team that where the season series was pretty much even almost. Honestly, the Regina Rebels with a bit of an advantage there with the 1 OT win over you girls, but with 10 goals for, 10 goals against in the season series, with it being so close, just how the series exactly went, all games decided by 1 goal.
Yeah, that was I fully expected for us to be preparing to play tonight for a game 5. I mean, if you can, we separate by the thinnest of margins. At the end of the day, we knew that whatever team could impose their will and their strategy on the other was going to come out in the end of it. We were fortunate enough that we got to score that 1 more goal than they did last night or Sunday night, and that ended up pulling out for us. But we knew it was going to be physical. There was a lot of contact in that series. We knew it was going to be, a battle every time we're on the ice, and we were happier to keep it a low-scoring affair. They've got a lot of high-powered offense there, so the closer we could keep it, the more comfortable we were playing in those 1-0 and 2-1 hockey games.
And like you said, this team very accustomed to playing in those 1-goal games all season long and having success. But this Regina Rebels team, having a player that had one of the best seasons ever in the history of the league, and Alexis Petford, and so many options. Just talk about after that game 1, losing 4-3 in double OT, only holding them to 2 goals in the last 3 games of the series. How you guys as a coaching staff and how the girls made the adjustments to shut down and lock down on this Regina Rebels attack.
Well, the biggest thing was our mindset. We, going into the playoff or the finals there, everybody knew we were in the finals, and we started worrying about winning the finals versus playing the game. So a lot of conversation from our staff came back to living in the moment, not worrying about the end result, but focusing on the steps and the process along the way, and to trust our process. We've worked on it all year long, and the girls are very good at it. We just had to flip their mindset a little bit. We talked about playing to win versus playing not to lose, and that game 1, we were playing not to lose. They're more worried about losing a series versus winning a hockey game or playing it the right way. So, we had to adjust the mental standpoint of our team and our focus on our team just to worry about the moment and not worry about the end result. I think from a tactical standpoint, we needed to clog up the neutral zone a little bit better than we did in that first game. Regina is a very talented hockey team. They like the fast break. They like to score off the rush, and they have a lot of speed. So we needed to get our defensemen a little bit more aggressive. But in the same respect, we needed our forwards to track back a little harder, which enables our defensemen to stand up and hold lines. So I think that was the biggest adjustment on our side that saw the success. We were able to outnumber them in many defensive situations and transition that puck for us.
Right, and when you are able to outnumber a team in the defensive zone and come away with the puck, it's only going to do wonders for the team, like did for this Notre Dame Hounds team throughout the series. I want to talk about Kira Anderson here. Not only did she have a huge game number 4 to help send this team to the next round with a hat trick, but also was the girl who scored the championship clinching goal. Take me through that goal and just everything that happened after it for you guys, this team of girls to win the championship.
Yeah, Kyra's had a strong year for us. She's a Regina kid who coming out of Bantam was one of the, I think she's second leading scorer of the Bantam AA League in Saskatchewan, chose to come to Notre Dame, and from day one has been working nonstop. Her brother came here. Kevin Anderson was the captain of our junior team this year, and he's going to go to Princeton next year. So she comes from a hockey family who, same thing, she just goes to work. Kyra's always in the gym. She's in the shooting center anytime she gets opportunities to shoot pucks. We saw that come through in her game. The game-winning goal, I didn't see a lot of it. I just saw the end of it, till watching it after, obviously, on the video. But, it was a great pass by our defenseman who faked a shot and kind of froze their net front player. Kyra found that back door, and puck was on and off her stick in less than a second. So it was quite nice to see that go in, quite a relief, but also just watching the girls celebrating the joy, just the celebration on our bench and down in front of their net, and having, our male Hounds team all came out to support us. They started their series last night. So we were fortunate enough to get them on the ice with us to help celebrate the championship, as we obviously are very close as groups, being at Notre Dame and living all together. It was a unique situation and a lot of fun to be part of.
Yeah, and just amazing to have that type of environment in that final game, for the Game 4 to, roll out the way it did, and for this Notre Dame Hounds team to be champions. But the season isn't over yet. This team still has a series to be played. The Western Regionals coming up against the Westman Wildcats coming up later on this month in Hartney. A trip to the Esso Cup on the line, with the finals concluding pretty recently, 2 days ago at this point. I assume that preparations haven't quite begun at this point. Talk about when the preparation will begin for this group. Of course, like you said, can't really do anything right now because this team is on spring break.
Yeah, preparations from just a logistics standpoint started yesterday with just finding hotels and meal places and just working on the background side of it. From a hockey standpoint, my wife made me stay away from the rink yesterday, so I wanted to jump right in and start watching video and getting ourselves going. But at the end of the day, she told me I needed to take a day off. So we got to spend a day just hanging out as a family yesterday. So that was a good thing, kind of recharge a little bit. From a hockey standpoint, I don't know a ton about the Westman team as of right now. I wasn't as focused as on anybody else except for who was in front of us, trying to practice what I preach to our team. So I'll start digging into that today, getting into the X's and O's of the game and learn a little bit more with the Hartley Arena since we've never been in it before. I did see Westman play at our Manny tournament this year. They came out just before Christmas, but from what I understand, they're a completely different team now than they were then. They had a really strong February, and even though their record may not have been as strong as ours, I don't take that for anything other than being on paper. I mean, we always talk about playing the right way in February leading into March and April. I think that's what they did, and they're carrying a lot of momentum right now. I'm looking forward to it being a very, probably a 3-game series, and again, more 1-goal hockey games.
Westman, it's a team that struggled near the end of the season, but got hot at the right time in the playoffs with a hot goaltender. A lot of depth on that team, and yeah, it's going to be exciting to see this Notre Dame Hounds team that you coach face off against the Westman Wildcats in Hartney Arena. Should be an electric atmosphere, as it always is in Hartney Arena. But Craig Perrett, head coach of the Notre Dame Hounds U18 female team and the Saskatchewan female U18 AAA Hockey League, joining this edition of Coffee with Graeme. Craig, best of luck to you and the team as the preparations continue to happen for the Western Regionals coming up in Hartney, Manitoba, to face off against the Westman Wildcats with the trip on the Esso Cup on the line. And once again, congratulations on the big championship win this season, which happened this past Sunday.
Thanks, Graeme, and thanks for your support as always. And hopefully we can have another conversation in a couple of weeks, but I'm sure Westman's looking forward to the same thing with you on their side of it as well, too. So looking forward to a good series, and thank you for your support for us and also female hockey in general.
Well, who wants to be on Coffee with Graeme Moore, Guy Williams or Craig Perrett? It will be interesting to see. We'll have to wait and find out, though, Craig. Until then, you take care.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks. And yeah, this is going to be a very exciting series. Westman going up against the Notre Dame Hounds coming up, the Westman Wildcats and Notre Dame Hounds coming up later this month with the trip on the Esso Cup on the line, a chance to play for a national championship, which would be phenomenal for either one of those teams that goes through, whether it be the Wildcats or the Hounds. So we're going to take it to a commercial break now in this edition of Coffee with Graeme. Coming up next, it's the first time Cody Wall is going to come on his segment, Off the Wall with Cody. And why I say the first time he's coming on a segment, it isn't the first time he's coming on a segment, but it is the first time that he's going to be breaking down some of the players that we will be watching at this year's 2022 Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp in Calgary, Alberta. Break. Stick around for more here on ASTV.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-866-5EVOLVE or support@evolvegreen.ca. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.evolvegreen.ca.
This week's edition of Off the Wall with Cody on ASTV Productions. Cody Wall joining the segment as always on this Tuesday morning. It's the first time we're diving into talking about players today from the 2022 Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp. Cody, very exciting episode. I'm excited to do this with you. There's over 300 players now in this camp. It's going to be a lot of hockey players playing in this hockey exposure camp coming up on May 6th to May 8th in Calgary, Alberta. But let's get into some of the names that you got here on your list, Cody. Starting off with the goaltender, William Forster. He's from the High River Flyers team in the HJHL. He's 2003 born. Talk about this kid, his game as a goaltender, being a 2003 born goaltender from the High River Flyers.
Yeah, looking at the list of players that are going to be joining this exposure camp, William Forrester was a guy who kind of stuck out, and after doing some digging, found that he actually is a returning player for this tournament. William was a goaltender for last year's Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp, and found himself latching on with the High River Flyers in the HJHL. But looks to be that Williams going to be looking to maybe make his mark on a couple other teams, maybe expand his horizons. I'm going to be looking to him to probably set the pace early, because he is coming in here. He's going to be knowing what to expect because he has been to this camp before. So I do think he's going to be a goaltender to watch in this tournament. He has struggled a little bit in this last year in the HJHL with a record of 1-8 in 12 games. But as I was kind of looking up William here, look back to his 2019-2020 year, probably his last, you could say, full season before all this COVID happened. And in his year, in the CSSHL with, I believe it was Notre Dame. He had gone 10-1-1 with 2.4 goals against and 912 save percentage. So thinking he's going to be looking to get back to that record that kind of pace he had before COVID here, and looking to make a mark on some of the scouts that we're going to be seeing here at the Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp.
Yeah, looking back to his 2019-2020 season, 12 games played, a 912 save percentage, a 10-1-1 record. Of course, this season, struggling, like you said, Cody. A 1-8 record, 833 save percentage, and 810 goals against average in 12 games with the High River Flyers. But he spoke about how for, this kid, William Forster, he had a chance to be in this hockey exposure camp last year. Talk about how, with him having that experience coming in, maybe for some of the players that haven't been there before, how much of an advantage that experience will give William Forster in this tournament of being there before.
Yeah, definitely. First, I made a mistake there. I had said that William had played for Notre Dame. I do have it here. He had played with Edge back in the 1920 season. But I think that, a goaltender who's been to this camp before has got some of the familiarity with what's going to be going on, what's going to be the pace at this camp, because some of the younger guys that we are going to dive into a little bit later do end up having a couple of the 07 born guys coming up on my list here later on in the segment. But some of those guys, I think, they won't be knowing quite what to expect, whereas William, he'll know that pace. He has played some junior hockey here in this last year. So he's going to be, I think, a step above some of the other goaltenders who maybe are coming in playing some AA and AAA, and definitely will have a bit of an advantage over some of the guys that are going to be participating.
Speaking of the 2007 born players in this tournament, we're going to talk about 4 of them right here on your list, Cody. Davis Glenn from Grand Prairie, Alberta, Canada, born June 12, 2007. He plays for the Grand Prairie Storm U15 AAA team in the Alberta Elite Hockey League, and he's a defenseman. This season put up 19 total points in 34 games played. Actually got called up to Grand Prairie Storm's U16 AAA team for 2 games this year. He played 5 playoff games. Talk about this kid here, Davis Glenn, an 07 born player, a player that has been able to put up some offensive numbers as well with those 19 points in 34 games this season. Take me through, what you've seen, what you've heard about this kid's game.
One thing I like, I still like the big-bodied defenseman, the guy who can kind of patrol the blue line and use some physicality. Obviously, haven't been able to see Davis here in person watching him, but just kind of looking through some of the players that we're going to be seeing here at the tournament. One thing that stood out to me from Davis was not just the fact that he's been able to put up points from the back end. He did end up leading his team in defensemen in points, but also he stands in at 6 feet, and I believe it got him at 185 pounds. So for a 14 turning 15-year-old player who is going to be manning the back end there, that's a fairly good size. So for a defenseman going forward for some of these junior teams, one thing like I said, I always like my defenseman to have a little bit of size, be able to play with a little bit of tenacity, and have a little bit of bite in his game. And that's something I'd really like to see from Davis Glenn. And that was one of the reasons why I had kind of highlighted him in the list. Was he was a player that definitely kind of intrigued me, and a player I personally want to watch at the Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp.
Yeah, and for Davis Glenn, he is eligible for this year's WHL draft, so it will be interesting to see what this tournament may be able to do with him if he has a big performance. Maybe his draft stock gets boosted. Maybe he gets on the radar of teams. Not too sure where he's at in terms of how these scouts view him going into the WHL draft. But it will be interesting to see how Davis Glenn performs in this environment coming up in Calgary on May 6th to May 8th. Let's talk about Carter Ellsworth now, forward from the Notre Dame Hounds U18 prep team, 2007 born. So pretty sure this is a player we've actually seen before here on the network, since he was in Pilot-Mound, Manitoba at times. I'm not too sure. I don't really remember much of him, but talk about Carter Ellsworth here, Cody. What excites you about this kid's game, this forward?
Yeah, one of the reasons I kind of picked Carter was kind of like you mentioned, Graeme. We have, I believe, had the chance to see Carter in person playing against the U15 Buffalo. So a player that we may be thinking back, I do think I remember seeing Carter Ellsworth being a standout player for the Notre Dame Hounds this year. A player that was able to be noticed, at least with his foot speed. And as I kind of dived a little bit more, he was just under point a game player with the U15 Hounds, and even ended up getting himself a call up to the U18 AA club for one game. But, you know, a player that, you know, like you said about Davis Glenn coming in 07 is his draft year. One thing for Carter, he is a little bit smaller in stature, a little bit smaller bodied, so that could be something that we'll have to see going up against some bigger bodied players now. You know, seeing these are going to be junior eligible players all going forward here in this tournament. So a smaller stature player like Carter, it'll be interesting to see if he's able to play to his strengths and be able to make a difference out there and make an impact on some of the scouts that are going to be there watching for some standout players.
Yeah, and for a kid like Carter Ellsworth, like you said, 5'7", 134 pounds, definitely going to be interesting to see how much he relies on his quickness of his feet, the quickness of his speed once he gets going. And we'll see how he looks out there once he goes up against this talent, this older talent that he'll be going against, since this is a tournament involving 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, and 2007 born hockey players coming into this Western Canada hockey exposure camp. But let's talk about Caden Wilkins now, a forward from the Stars Hockey Academy, the Hockey Super League U15 team. He's 2007 born, another 07 player. Let's talk about Caden Wilkins. What you've noticed about him, you know, just looking at his stats and stuff like that.
Yeah, when I was going through the list there, Caden Wilkins was a guy who stood out on multiple for multiple reasons. You know, he was able to put up 51 points in the Hockey Super League U15 league this year, finding himself second on his team in scoring, in total point scoring, as well as second in goals with 18. But it's more than just the points. He's got a fair frame on him as well, standing at 6 feet even, and with a good weight of 172. You know, he's a player that you got to think isn't going to be pushed around out there, and it'll be interesting to see if he's able to find that time and space. He's a player that, you know, looking at his penalty minutes, he's not a fairly penalized guy, but he does look like a guy who probably won't shy away from a little bit of physicality with 26 penalty minutes on the year. Not going to be a Lady Bing winner, but you know, he definitely doesn't look like a dirty player by no means with those penalty minutes. Looks like he does a lot of his damage on the score sheet rather than putting his team down any man.
Yeah, and my notes are just loading here. I'm trying to look up his stats here. 1 second, Cody. I don't know why this is doing this, but yeah, Caden Wilkins having a heck of a season. 51 points in 36 games, 18 goals, 33 assists. Going to be interesting to see his playmaking abilities.
Another thing that about Caden, I know kind of all these guys have a couple of games called up under their belt, but he found himself also called up to the Hockey Super League U17 league for 3 games for the AMP Academy U17 prep, and in his 3 games there, looked like he did manage to pick up 1 assist in his 3 games.
Wow. So having some experience there, he's going to be going up against some older competition as well in this tournament, being a 2007 born prospect. Taking a look at Caden Wilkins, like you said, Cody, looking at his height, 6 feet tall, 172 pounds, from Rumsey, Alberta in Canada. But talking about one more player here, defenseman on the list. And this is a player that plays on the same team from the Stars. It's Alex Powell. He put up 14 points in 32 games this season with the Stars. Talking about big body here, Cody. I mean, Alex Powell, he's 6'2", not the most weight put on yet, 146 pounds. But yeah, talk about this prospect, this player from Airdrie, Alberta, Canada.
Yeah, standing in at 6'2", he definitely has the height. And that's sometimes something you kind of, I guess, as a scout for some of these junior and WHL teams. That's one thing I guess you kind of got to sometimes be wary of. Some players do hit their growth spurt early, like some of these players we have mentioned on the list. You got guys like Caden Wilkins and Alex Powell, who are at 14, 15 years old, greater than 6 feet, which I'm 25 or over 25 gram, and I'm still not over that 6 feet mark. But you got to think a guy like Alex Powell, who already has the height, is going to eventually fill out in his body, and especially on the defense. I know I mentioned it before with I'm a guy who personally likes a lot of size on my defense, who are able to maybe muck it up a little bit and really grind the game away. That's my kind of defenseman, and that's something I also think I can see from Alex Powell. He isn't a guy who looks like he's a Lady Byng winner either, with 34 penalty minutes in his 32 games. But looking at points-wise statistics, he did lead his team in defensemen with 14 points. And I'm interested to see a guy who is tall but is maybe lacking a little bit of that weight, how he's going to be able to stand with some of these heavier players out there, and if he's going to be able to stand up. Some of these guys leading up to this tournament, you got to imagine, are going to be preparing quite well. So, I mean, even though we have Alex Powell listed at 146, a guy like him who is a 2007 born might be looking to get his name called in the WHL draft. A guy like him could maybe find himself hitting the gym a bit to put on some pounds for some of those scouts here as their last look before the WHL draft coming up in the next month here.
And we know how much scouts out there traditionally, they've always loved size. Well, for Alex Powell, 3 goals, 11 assists this year for 14 points. Like you said, Cody leading all defensemen on his points in those 32 games he played. He's 6'2", 146. So a lot of raw size there, I guess we could call it that. But yeah, Cody, thanks for taking the time as always on Off the Wall with Cody, joining the show on this Tuesday morning, finally talking about the Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp, diving into the players this time around instead of just talking about the tournament. It's going to be exciting to see how this continues to go here, because I know you're going to be doing some interviews coming up, which is going to be very exciting. Can't wait to hear all about it coming up here in the next 2 weeks here on Off the Wall with Cody. But until then, Cody, Until I see you next week on Tuesday, you take care, and we'll talk more prospects next week on our hockey exposure camp coverage.
Thanks, Graeme. And as always, I love being on here, and look forward to talking to you again next week and breaking down some more new players and talking more about this exciting endeavor we have here with Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp.
Likewise, Cody, always great talking to you. You take care, man.
Thanks. Take care.
And Cody Wall, for the first time ever, using his green screen here on this Tuesday morning edition of Coffee with Graeme, of course, on April 12th. And yeah, going to be awesome to talk more prospects coming up about the 2022 hockey or Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp coming up next week, next Tuesday morning here on the network with Cody Wall on Off the Wall with Cody. But coming up after this next commercial break, folks, we are going to be going to this episode's edition of League Report. I'm going to be taking a look at the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League for one final time, as well as the Manitoba Major Junior Hockey League, what's been going down there, and as well as what's been going down in the Manitoba AAA U18 Hockey League. You're watching Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. Stick around for more after this commercial break.
Welcome to Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot-Mound Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
Welcome back to Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. Cody Wall just joined the show here on Off the Wall with Cody, breaking down some of the players that we are going to be seeing in this year's 2022 Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp in Calgary, Alberta from May 6th to May 8th. Be sure to check out other shows on the network as well. Theo Tekuluk's show On the Ice, as he talks with Wayne Cozier and some other guests about the Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp, as well as tune in for Thursday night's edition of Coffee with Graeme, as I'll have Seth Rock here back on Seth's Inside Scoop to talk about the teams, how they're looking, breaking them down heading into this year's hockey exposure camp. But yeah, also had a chance to talk to Craig Perrett, head coach of the Notre Dame Hounds U18 female team from the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League, as his team is off to the Western Regional Series against the Westman Wildcats coming up later this month. Special thanks to both Craig and Cody for coming on the show. We'll probably thank them at the end of this show as well. But it is time now to dive into this episode's edition of a League Report. And what am I going to be taking a look at first? I am going to be showing you guys how the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League unfolded here in the finals for one final time. It's already talked about this, but we'll talk about it again. So I talked about this with Craig Perrett. But as you can see here, the championship series, the number one seeded Notre Dame Hounds made it to the finals, faced off against the Regina Rebels. This series went 4 games. Head coach of the Hounds, Craig Perrett, said to me earlier he fully expected there to be a game 5 in the series, which would have happened tonight. But Notre Dame spoiled the plans for Regina for that to happen with that 1-0 OT victory to clinch the championship. in the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League. So congratulations to the Notre Dame Hounds once again for winning this year's Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League Championship. We'll go into the final stats leaders for the playoffs as well. Congratulations to Alexis Petford, the regular season leading goal getter, assist leader, and points leader in the Saskatchewan Female U18 AAA Hockey League. She finished with the most goals out of any players in the playoffs with 12 goals in 11 games, over a goal per game average. She had 5 assists for 17 points, making her the point leader throughout the playoffs. Diving into the goaltenders, as you guys can see the rest of the top 5 there in the stats. Not going to go through all of that, but I will take a look at the goaltenders now in the playoffs. And it was, with the best record, Eva Filipova of the Notre Dame Hounds, 6-1, as mentioned before previously in this episode, a .940 save percentage and a .132 goals against average with 2 shutouts. And even though her record ended up being worse, she was on the losing side of things in the finals. Peyton Schlamp, what a performance from her throughout the playoffs. She had 6 wins, 4 losses, played every single game for Notre Dame in the playoffs. A .952 save percentage, a .130 goals against average, and led the playoffs out of all goaltenders with 3 shutouts. So congratulations to her on a phenomenal postseason, even though she came out on the losing side of things. As you can see here, the final playoff records. And I just got to double check one thing here. And she actually didn't play all 11 games. Chloe Sorensen got a game in there and had a .955 save percentage, a 1 goals against average, and only let up 1 goal in her 1 game that she played, which I assume it was against Weyburn. We'll take a look at it here. And yeah, she ended up going up against, Weyburn in the playoffs. But yeah, those are the final standings for the playoffs. Regina finishing with more points than Notre Dame, but not a better record, as you can see here. So next time we'll be talking about this league, I guess, is going to be in the next few weeks here, preparing to highlight the Western Regional Series coming up between the Notre Dame Hounds and the Westman Wildcats. Let's move into the MMJHL now. The Pembina Valley Twisters ended up making it to the finals against the St. James Junior Canucks. Let's take a look at how the Pembina Valley Twisters got there. Of course, they put Transcona Railer Express on the brink. They put the Railer Express on the brink with a 3-1 win last Tuesday. They finished off the series with a 3-2 overtime victory to clinch their spot into the finals over the Railer Express last week on Friday. Game 1 of the finals, St. James, they were awaiting the Pembina Valley Twisters as St. James beat the Raiders Junior Hockey Club in 5 games to make it to the finals. And their best of 7 semifinals series. So St. James, I was actually in attendance for this game on Sunday night at the Bell MTS Iceplex. St. James was up 5-1 after the first 2 periods, but Pembina Valley, after St. James got into some penalty trouble, scored 2 goals on the power play, also scored 1 even strength, and they were able to pull within 1, but weren't able to finish the job. So the St. James Junior Canucks, best team in the league all season, based off standings, finishing first, and based off their record, up 1-0 early in this best of 7 finals. Game 2 going tonight at the Morris Multiplex at 8 p.m. That is when the puck will drop. We'll take a look at the stats leaders here. It is Curtis Luke leading all players with 9 points. That's 9 more than TJ Matsiuszewski, or Matsiuszewski, as I found out it was pronounced like that. We'll have to have TJ on the show at some point, and we'll actually get the actual pronunciation of his name. Maybe I'll ask around if I do go to game 3, which is on Thursday, but I'm not too sure. But Curtis Luke with 29 points, TJ Matsiuszewski with 20 points in 12 games played. He is second in points right now, leading the Twisters in points in the playoffs at this point. As the next best Twister in terms of points is Tyler Van Dynes with 10 points in 12 games played. Let's take a look at the goaltending for this league now throughout the playoffs. And just in terms of the wins, well, it is Noah Gilbert of the St. James Junior Canucks with the most wins in 10 games played, 9 wins, only 1 loss that came in OT in that series against the Raiders Junior Hockey Club. Logan Enns, who is taking a look at him, 2003 born player, having a phenomenal playoffs for himself. 920 save percentage, a 241 goals against average, 7 wins, 2 losses, and 2 overtime losses for him at this point. Noah Gilbert leads all goaltenders in the playoffs with 2 shutouts. Enns is the only other goaltender with a shutout as well, with only 1 in the playoffs. Let's move into the Manitoba AAA U18 Hockey League now. The final series started this past Friday against the top 2 teams in the league going at it. Both of them undefeated up until that point in the playoffs with 6-0 records coming into this first game. It was the Brandon Wheat Kings winning 6-5 over the Winnipeg Wild in overtime at J&G Homes Arena in Brandon, Manitoba. Moving into game number 2, which happened on Sunday, it was another close win for the Wheat Kings, but they were able to come out with it 5-4 at the Bell MTS Iceplex, the Subway Arena in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So Brandon, they have a chance to complete the perfect playoff run if they do come away with a win at home on home ice at J&G Homes Arena in Brandon, Manitoba. Puck drops for game 3 Friday night at 7:30 p.m. The Winnipeg Wild looking to keep their season going. The Brandon Wheat Kings looking to capture a championship and looking to go perfect in the postseason. We will send it to one last commercial break here on Coffee with Graeme. Now, on this edition of the show, coming up next is a bit of some, well, not a bit of some, but some final words here on this edition of the show. Stick with me here as we play one final commercial break on this edition, Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. Stick around for some final words after this commercial break. Welcome back to this edition of Coffee with Graeme on ASTV Productions. This is where I'll end off today's edition of the show. It was great to be with you all here on this Tuesday morning once again. Coffee with Graeme will be returning on Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time. You can catch that edition of the show on our website at amateursports.tv or ASTV Productions, on our Facebook at ASTV Productions, as well as on our Twitter at Amateur Sports TV. Be sure to check out our social media pages, our Instagram at ASTV Productions, our Facebook and Twitter as well. On Thursday morning, look out for the guest list that will be released for Thursday night's edition of Coffee with Graeme all over our social media platforms coming up on Thursday morning. Want to give a special thanks once again to the 2 people who joined me on today's edition of the show. Notre Dame Hounds U18 female head coach Craig Perrett for joining the show, as well as Off the Wall with Cody, the man himself, Cody Wall, for joining Off the Wall with Cody and talking about the 2022 Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp. Of course, the only place to watch this year's 2022 Western Canada Hockey Exposure Camp is on our website at amateursports.tv. will be the only place where you guys can watch all of the games that we will be broadcasting in Calgary, Alberta from May 6th to May 8th. Of course, as I said, at some point in this episode, I believe right after Off the Wall with Cody, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but yeah, Seth Rock will be returning to the show on his segment, Seth's Inside Scoop, to preview some of the teams, break them down as we continue our coverage of the hockey exposure camp here on Coffee with Graeme. So yeah, well, what else is on the agenda? Oh yes, it's coming up, May 10th, coming up very soon. We're less than a month away from that, and I just want to let you all know about this fundraiser I've been doing for a while here, over 2 months at this point, I believe, off the top of my head. But my mental health fundraiser, Graeme's mental health fundraiser, the link is down below if you want to donate or share the link. Any amount of money helps raising money for mental health, the Canadian Mental Health Association. That is where all the proceeds go to, and you'll see the message in the GoFundMe, my story there, and yeah, my views, my opinions expressed in that paragraph that I wrote, in that text that I wrote on my GoFundMe page, does not align with the views of ASTV Productions' views on Belt Media. I just want to make that clear once again, as I always do when I do bring up my mental health fundraiser. But link is down below if you want to donate or share. Please share if you can't donate, because we want to try to get to the goal, $1,000. If we don't reach it, it's okay. But we are quite a ways away at this point, $237 raised, which I'm so happy about. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has donated at this point, but looking to get a bit more money in there for the donations. So if you can, that'd be awesome if you'd be able to donate today. But I want to give a special thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning in to today's edition of Coffee with Graeme, as well as our sponsors for sponsoring another edition of the show in AETi, Caisse Financial Group, Evolve Green, Pilot-Mound Hockey-Academy, and TOVI Hockey. So, folks, that is going to do it officially for today's edition of Coffee with Graeme. I've been your host of Coffee with Graeme, as always, Graeme Forsyth, giving you the salute and the peace out on this Tuesday morning. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, folks. Have a wonderful rest of your week if I don't see you again for the next edition of Coffee with Graeme. But yeah, until 2 days from now on Thursday night, everybody, at 8 p.m. Central Daylight Time, which is Manitoba time. We'll see you then. Take care, everybody.